Hello again, friends. How's it going? Well, that seems to work. Put the camera on the garbage can and found this folding chair out here. So I'm out in my front yard and wanted to make a video while I had this on my head, on my head. So it's an off the cusp as usual. And I guess that would tie into what I wanted to talk about a bit. It's like my videos have always been off the cusp. People know that. I don't edit or piece mine together. And it's because I don't really have anything to remove. I don't need to edit the things that I've said, but it's just, I'm not dissing those who do. I'm saying I don't have a specific type of video format or time to fill, and I don't do this to attract people and subscribers. And maybe I should. Maybe I should sponsor my channel more and become more of a speaker and try to become an authority on certain subjects. And that's exactly what this video is about. Why I don't, and why so many other people don't. It's why we don't seek to confront a larger audience, because there's a certain amount of humility that comes with knowledge. And I'm not saying that I have a lot of knowledge. I only have my experience in my life. You know, I'm 41 years old. I've lived the life I've lived. I'm not trying to justify anything anymore, and that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. The fact that once you let go of trying to prove or express yourself or convince yourself, and then you've also been able to let go of the things that you want to understand that maybe you never can. And so, for an example, the quote I wanted to say, it was kind of something I thought of right before I turned the camera on, was that it's not the things that you've gained that define happiness. It's the things that you've been able to let go. And with that, I mean that we search for not just riches, but all types of spiritual and material gains in our lives to make us happy, to fill that hole, that void everyone has. But in reality, much of that is created not by longing or what we want, but by letting go of that, we can actually eliminate. And what I mean is just saying, hey, as a human, probably I don't understand life and death. I don't know where I go after I die, and I don't know, and I probably won't. Maybe I will. Cool. You set it on the back burner and you let it go. You can do the same thing for a variety of religions and cultural beliefs. You can look at them and say, this is beautiful, it's part of humanity, but I don't have to delve too deeply into it or to wonder, is this the right one? Because a lot of people do switch from religion to religion, and they're trying to find something that suits them. Meanwhile, within the religion of your heart, you are the authority. And authority is really the main subject I wanted to start off this video with. I know I skip around a lot, but this is all the same. It's all tied in my mind here, is who do we give our time to listen to that speaks? Philosophers, speakers, psychologists, psychiatrists, all the different, doctors and physicists and everyone who's studying the different components of this universe we live in, different sciences. They all have their own thing to say about physical items or things as composed, or I should say, the laws of the universe, or what is set in stone or solid, or things that at least we think we can explain. Meanwhile, we have other people who are much more, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they're people are much more reluctant to just to take them seriously. I mean, they get a lot more conflict and argument against their beliefs, because they're philosophies or ideas, things that you can't prove. So a person may not be known for any particular invention or something that actually is physical in nature, but rather an idea of how to structure a society, or an idea of how democracy could be better, or working things out for the better of people. There are a lot of speakers out there who have a lot of great ideas, theories, and ideas to put them into practice, but that just aren't taken seriously enough, and a lot more of them just don't speak up. They don't become famous or known because it's not in their nature. They're people who use their knowledge to help others, but don't seek fame or fortune. And that makes it difficult. It's the old philosopher king. It's not a new idea. The philosopher king, the idea, no philosophers ever become kings is the problem. But having a king that understands philosophy and understands the world can really look at things through a lens of his own mind. You're trusting an individual and giving that individual authority. And that's what I guess I wanted to ask is, who has authority? When you listen to a speaker, when you listen to me, don't believe anything I say. Anything I say could be complete bullshit. I may be just talking out my ass, but I at least really try hard not to quote things as fact and say, this is what I've learned, that's a fact. I just like to throw out the ideas and theories, but sometimes, people will call me out on a particular subject. Oh, you misspoke on this, or this is incorrect, and I'm totally open to that. That's great. That's how we learn. It's not like a person has to get defensive and say, oh, well, screw you. It's all about learning together. So when I look to listen to someone, like somebody recommended someone to me today, and so far the guy seems to be, have some good ideas, but all of them fall into this group of philosophers and idealists and different people I've listened to that have these phenomenal ideas, but they're ideas I've already thought of. And that's not an arrogant statement, but things that I can more or less agree with and say, yeah, and then they have, of course, their own take and their own theory on how it might work better, and I say, sure, but realize that it's an ideal, that either it's something that maybe we aren't ready to achieve, that we can't agree on, or something that maybe is unachievable, or just, such as a lot of people look to those who talk about ancient aliens, or, ancient stone builders, or let's say light beings or whatnot, light workers, not light, in particular, I'm not trying to call anyone out. I'm just saying that a lot of the New Age stuff, I believe, has substance, it has power, but it's inherent within the individual, and what they're doing is using some New Age idea or theory as a tool, or rather as a catalyst, or a totem, if you will. It's just like using a rosary, counting their prayers, saying a mantra. All of these things really have power. We've shown that, individuals have a vast amount of power to change their own body temperature, their own demeanor. They can slow their heartbeat. We, as humans, are capable of that. So we are all our own authorities. In that sense, it's just that we get lazy and we don't want to practice and learn how to talk to our own bodies and our own minds. And we don't want to learn things around us because it's too overwhelming. There's so much shit going on in the world, And I was kind of like, so many people are so hung up on politics, or they're hung up on fashion or TV shows. It's the worst. I mean, politics at least have some substance, and we need to deal with some issues. But when it comes to talking about other people, it reminds me of that quote, small minds talk about people, average minds talk about things, and great minds talk about ideas. And as soon as you get into that realm, it becomes this arrogance, or, people who say, well, if you call yourself intelligent, I wrote a poem earlier, I posted it on Facebook, and it was something, I can't remember what it said right now, maybe I'll post it in the comments, but like, if you have, if you have pride in yourself and what you've done, you're considered arrogant. In other words, when we pity ourselves, people say, don't be the victim. But when we love ourselves, people say, get over yourself. And we have to be somewhere in the middle, fitting in society's standards, and it's complete bullshit. So many people have to fit into that lens, and the more famous a person is, the more they tend to cater and mold themselves to certain standards, which is something I'm very grateful I don't have to do. I've seen so many people come up over the years, say through YouTube or elsewhere, where they finally get, mainstream, if you will, and they actually, bend and twist what they're doing and their thing in order for the money. And that's okay, because if that's what you want to do as a business or as a profit business model, so be it. My channel's always been, for me, an outlet. So if I were to have that obligation to say and talk about certain things, I'd feel really trapped, and I probably wouldn't even enjoy doing it, More than that, being pressured into a certain time to do it. I have a mocha I made. It's so delicious. I have an espresso machine, just a little cheesy one. Actually, I got it from somebody left it with my camp at Soak last year. Can't remember who it was, but anyhow. Sometimes I just want to stop and take a quick vape. but I find myself talking so much, and I do talk a lot. I'm the kind of person who, if I were, it's kind of like pick me up and put me somewhere in front of a group of people, and I'll just ramble on about shit, and especially if I'm on psychedelics or something, but, or if I've taken a dose of Kratom, a variety of different things which help me to speak, more, maybe not as, I don't know, more fluently, but just feel more like speaking. It's kind of like art. You may not think of speaking as art, but it is. Flowing the language properly, it's like you can have, speaker's block, like writer's block. I mean, if you're making videos like I have been for so long, and you might think you'd forget, or let's just say not forget, but not be able to come up with a subject or an idea. Some people have asked how can, I've seen people coming up with they only have 400 or 500 videos. I've done 4,000 videos. It's just crazy to think I've done that many. I mean, all the time for 7 years, but I still have at least a somewhat small channel, and I try to respond to everyone. So here I am, I'm talking about myself. See, I'm fully aware when I'm doing that, and it's something I try to avoid. I despise plugging myself or talking about myself. I try not to talk about my business in my videos. My Patreon account, which a few people donate to, and I always say I do appreciate that people donate, but when I say that, I feel like I'm saying, hey, donate to my Patreon account. I'm only providing to the people my ideas on life and my thoughts, and I'd really love to do something with that. I mean, the herb business is phenomenal because I can, help people who are in pain or, stressed out, depressed, have certain needs, but it's so limited. I want to expand myself to many facets of life, but it's hard because I'm so tied up now, and especially being a stay-at-home, work-at-home dad, it's so, but the one thing that I've always had in my work is been able to have the time to think, I've never worked in, say, not since I was young, in a fast food atmosphere or something where I had to be really busy. I mean, I worked at a gas station when I was younger, but when I worked as a carpenter, and I worked for about 10 to 15 years on and off as a carpenter until my sciatica got really bad. But I started doing really fine finished carpentry towards the end. I did this curved staircase, and I started getting cocky and really into what I did. And I had people who were willing to pay for the wood to make these amazing, kitchens and cabinets and stuff. And they were willing to pay for the time to learn it. I did wing-back chairs and a sofa frames with really nice, walnut stained and varnished legs and everything. Learned how to do that all, by myself, and I was really proud of what I did. And so it's okay to take, pride in what you've done. But anyhow, after that I had to jump into the herb business, and it was weird because for a while there I felt kind of useless. Society makes us think that we have to be continuously working and working and working, but I forgot the point of why I was even bringing up work. Something to the effect of, working for yourself is a huge pain in the ass. That you're never off the clock. I'll be in there filling bags, at 9 o'clock at night, whenever I have the energy to do it, because I do everything by myself. And I see now why people hire a bookkeeper or an office clerk, but since I do everything out of my own little personal office, and I know I can handle it, I do, and I kind of, I enjoy being busy, I guess, it's a thing, but I remember the point. I figured if I kept talking, I'd remember the point of why I brought up work. Even back when I was a carpenter, towards the end there, I would wear my headphones all day at work, because I worked by myself doing my own finished work. So I didn't have to talk to anybody or with a group of people or a crew. And a lot of job sites you can't wear headphones, but I did my own thing because I had my own license, and I would listen to Manly P. Hall for a long time while I was working, and then there was a period where I went through these great courses series where they talked about all the different philosophers and all the different psychiatrists, psychologists, and Freudian and Jungian ideas. And I listened to several hours of each one of these lectures. I downloaded them as a torrent years ago. So I had all these, probably thousands of hours of, information and speaking. And I listened to all of it. And it was I was for a year and a half just flooded with all this information and all these different great speakers. And that's when I realized, at that point, okay, it's important to learn. But back to the comment I said earlier, it's not what you know, it's what you can let go of, and that includes learning as much as you can to be able to know what to throw away, and learning how to let go. So if you're in the process of learning right now and you feel overwhelmed with all the things you're learning, perhaps you just realize the government lies to you. I mean, there's all different, stages people are at and places and where they're willing to go, and some people prefer to just pull the sheets back over their head and don't want to hear about it. But I think it's important to learn everything that's going on so you can be completely aware if something happens. And to give you an example, an extreme example, and the only one that popped into my head, if there was a major solar flare, a CME impact that wiped out the whole grid, it could happen. In 1859, there was the Carrington event, in which telegraph lines were fried and started a few fires. But back then, there was no electricity flowing through power lines yet. If that happened today, it would take down a majority of the grid, depending on where the Earth was facing. And a large solar impact, which happened regularly, every a couple hundred years, if it took the grid out, the people who were aware of this, who had the knowledge of what to look for example, if you live in a city and you can see every star that night, you might think, whoa, wait a minute. You'd realize, oh shit, of course all the power's out in all the cities. And that if it was that severe, you better get your shit together and your prep kit. I don't want to go towards fear-mongering here, but I was thinking about, I've looked to see, if there was a pandemic or an epidemic and you understood the biology or the chemistry of how these viruses worked and you were able to avoid it because of that. Or just basic knowledge of knowing how to start a fire, I mean, I would say that to save anything, it would be a survival gear. Things like, or not gear, but books. All the basic knowledge that we've accrued through all the different, not just, historians and philosophers and, inventors who have collaborated and worked alone and with groups for these huge efforts to build all of this technology up to where we are today. And we seem to want to kind of, we're hitting ourselves by thinking we kind of went too far, we made the bomb, and yeah, there are some downsides to it, but I would say listen to every speaker out there, listen to every idea, know everything you can, and then figure out what to get rid of. So at this point, I'm just rambling and repeating myself. So I bid you farewell, and I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one.